everybody, it's just me, systematically, subsequentially summing up some serious situations alphabetically in WWE history. My name is Tom Campbell, and this is the letter S on the A to Z of WWE. S is for Stone Cold Steve Austin. Creative had nothing for Steve Williams, so he left for greener pastures of the WWF, debuting alongside Ted DiBiase as the Ringmaster. Not the most creative name. Don't worry, it wouldn't last long. He would become Stone Cold Steve Austin, and in 1996 would win the WWF King of the Ring. In doing so, he would cut an iconic promo where he claimed that Austin 316 says, "I just whipped your ass," as a dejected Jake the Snake Roberts walked past him. After winning King of the Ring, Steve Austin would go on to have an unforgettable rivalry with Bret the Hitman Hart, a feud that set him up good and proper to become the star of the Attitude Era. With ground-swelling support, he dethroned Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 14, became the leader of the Attitude Era and the WWF champion. Stone Cold Steve Austin became the Attitude Era's Hulk Hogan, and you couldn't find anybody more removed from Hulk Hogan than Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was beer drinking, swearing, putting his finger up at people, didn't care for anybody. He was an everyman who hated his boss and would take the fight to Vince McMahon and his cronies on a weekly basis on Monday Night Raw. It was a rivalry that saw the tide turn in the greater rivalry as WWF started to once again gain ground against WCW in the Monday Night War. And that was in big part thanks to Stone Cold Steve Austin. Not even a year out of action following neck surgery, nor an ill-judged 2001 heel turn could keep the rattlesnake down. He was the star of the WWF. He walked away from the company briefly in 2002, returned just in time to have his final match as a full-time competitor against The Rock at WrestleMania 19. That would turn out to be the last match for Stone Cold Steve Austin. He is now a proud member of the WWE Hall of Fame. And on the subject of will he ever wrestle again? Never say never. Quite a few major WWE shows happen to begin with the letter S by sheer coincidence, like this one. S is for Survivor Series, a Thanksgiving tradition that goes back to 1987. Teams of five strive to survive was the catchphrase. The rhetoric has been similar, although the numbers have changed. Elimination tag team matches are the order of the day when it comes to the November pay-per-view for the company. It was in some of these elimination tag matches that we saw two massive stars of the WWF make their debut, The Undertaker and The Rock. Not at the same time. No, that would make everyone's head explode. There were many years between them, and we'll talk about both of those guys a bit later on. It was also the place we first saw the Elimination Chamber match in 2002. In years that follow that, we've seen it become a sort of Raw versus SmackDown battleground as a team from Raw and a team from SmackDown have gone to loggerheads in elimination matches. They spiced it up this year though by adding NXT to the equation, as now 15 bodies surround the ring at one time in a Survivor Series match, making it the biggest elimination match since the Battle Royal. Survivor Series was a big success for the WWF, and it spawned another pay-per-view, one that sat around summertime. And our next S, SummerSlam. From 1988 onwards, it has become the tradition: when the weather is hottest, so is the wrestling. Bret Hart holds the SummerSlam Grand Slam. So at SummerSlam events alone, Bret Hart has won the Tag Team Championships, the Intercontinental Championship, and the WWF Championship. SummerSlam was also the place where TLC was born. The first tables, ladders, and chairs match happened as Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys waged war and left carnage in the first ever TLC tag team title match. Randy Orton won his first world championship at the SummerSlam event in 2004, and Brock Lesnar has a streak of his own as he has headlined the last 6 SummerSlam events consecutively. Not always winning, but he's certainly been there. He's won most of them, which I'm sure you know. From pay-per-view, we move to television as we go to a TV show that was birthed from a catchphrase. S is for SmackDown. In 1999, the WWF said, we need another TV show. Partly to stick it to WCW Thunder, and partly because we're doing such gangbusters business, let's do it a little bit more. The name SmackDown comes from the lexicon of The Rock, who would forever be talking about laying the smackdown on candy asses. The word SmackDown is now so prominent, it's in the dictionary. The draft in 2002 saw SmackDown become its own wrestling company, and in time, it would basically become the WWE's wrestling show, where you had sort of the older guys and the storyline stuff on Raw. You would have guys like Los Guerreros and Edge and Rey Mysterio and Kurt Angle tearing it up on SmackDown in 2002. Unlike Monday Night Raw, that has always been on a Monday night, with the exception of the odd occasion, hello Thursday, Raw Thursday, how you doing? SmackDown's moved around the schedule a lot. It started on a Thursday, then it moved to a Friday, then it moved to a Tuesday, then it moved back to a Friday. It's been everywhere, but it has continued a great tradition of WWF programming that really goes the distance over 20 years now. And now it's part of the Fox lineup. This is probably the biggest time for Friday Night SmackDown. Sometimes a rivalry gets too intense. Sometimes you got to do something to stop the other guy getting out, or maybe other people getting in. If only there was a match that would do that. Oh yeah, S is for steel cage match. Steel cage matches go back to 1937 in Georgia, where the steel cages were basically chicken wire. But the first steel cage match in the WWF occurred in the 70s with Bruno Sammartino brutalizing Lou Albano inside the steel. The first iconic cage moment came in 1982 when Jimmy Superfly Snuka from the top of the steel cage in Madison Square Garden hit a Superfly splash onto Don Morocco, an event that a hitchhiking Mick Foley was close enough to see, and it inspired him to become a WWF superstar. Whether it's blue bars, black bars, chicken wire, or barbed wire around the top like they did at No Way Out in 2005 that one time, a steel cage match is a piece of wrestling history. And when the cage comes down and they do that dum 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 thing, you know it's going to be special. Let's talk about another WWE Hall of Famer now. S is for Shawn Michaels. When the Rockers burst onto the scene in the WWF, we love Marty Jannetty, but there was something about Shawn that we couldn't quite put our finger on. And it was when Shawn Michaels kicked Marty Jannetty's head off in the barbershop and threw his head through the barbershop window, we realised that's it. Shawn Michaels is an arse, but we love him for it. That moment when Shawn Michaels attacked his Rockers tag team partner and kiboshed the tag team altogether was the moment that catapulted Shawn Michaels. He would become an intercontinental champion. He would become a mainstay of the WWF singles roster, and at WrestleMania 12, he would ascend to the very, very top and become the WWF champion. Shawn Michaels would take the fight to anybody and everybody as WWF champion, proving that size doesn't matter. However, we would see his attitude start to turn once again, and he would align himself with Triple H in China, forming D-Generation X in late 1997. Michaels wouldn't be around long enough to really see the fruits of the DX labor, as in 1998 at WrestleMania 14, he lost to Stone Cold Steve Austin, ushering in the Attitude Era and ushering out the Heartbreak Kid. Shawn Michaels would appear sporadically in the WWF after that, adopting the commissionary position for some of that time. It wasn't until SummerSlam 2002, in an unsanctioned match against Triple H, that we didn't just remember how good Shawn Michaels was, but we realized that he was back to stay. Shawn Michaels would become World Heavyweight Champion at the end of 2002, and he would add years to his Hall of Fame career before calling time after losing to The Undertaker at WrestleMania 26. Didn't he wrestle in Saudi Arabia after that? I said he called time at WrestleMania 26! S is for Cesare Gartamay, or as you'd know it in the WWE, the Sharpshooter, the move that saw Bret Hart vanquishing foes throughout his Hall of Fame career. Ronnie Garvin and Sting were the first people to adopt this particular hold away from the company, but it wasn't until Bret Hart was starting out on his singles career that Pat Patterson said, hey look, you need a finisher, you need like a submission style finisher. Like, this is a really good one, the one that Ronnie Garvin and Sting do, you should try that. The only person in the company that knew how to apply that hold was Conan. so the story goes. So Conan was the one that taught Bret Hart the sharpshooter. The sharpshooter was the move that added championship accomplishments to, as I said, the Hall of Fame career of Bret the Hitman Hart. Over the years, the sharpshooter has been used by a multitude of other performers in WWE. Nowadays, it is Natalya who is keeping it in the family by finishing off her opponents with that same Satori Gajime. That particular move was also the catalyst of one of the most controversial moments in WWF history, as S is for Screwjob. It's 1997 and Bret the Hitman Hart is leaving the WWF for WCW. But he is the WWF champion and he says, I'm happy to drop the belt to anyone and anywhere except at Survivor Series in Montreal. It's kind of my hometown. I'd like to lose it anywhere but there, please. So a plan is hashed out on Survivor Series night with the WWF coming to terms with the fact that Bret was going. They agreed they would sort something out before he left. However, there was concern that Bret Hart would take the belt to WCW, and that would be an embarrassment to the WWF. For Bret to turn up with the WWF title in WCW, it's boggling my mind just saying it out of my face right now. So what ended up happening on the night was one of the more controversial moments in the history of WWF. As Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart were going through the motions of their match, coming up to the closing portion of the match, we saw Shawn Michaels apply the sharpshooter to Bret Hart in a mocking moment in front of the Montreal faithful. And as he was locking it in, Earl Hebner, the referee, called for the bell. Bret Hart hadn't tapped out. That was strange. That wasn't the finish that was planned. Shawn Michaels was given the belt. Shawn Michaels made a very fast exit and the show ended. What? So the Montreal Screwjob was born on that very day with Bret Hart completely unaware that he was going to get jobbed out the way that he was. Now, since then, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, the WWE, and Vince McMahon have all made peace. Even Vince McMahon has allowed Bret Hart and family to all batter him at WrestleMania. That was a thing that happened. But regardless of all of that, regardless of the peace that has been made, the Montreal Screwjob remains a moment in the history of the WWF. Let's bring it bang up to date. S is for Seth Rollins, who signed a development deal with the WWE in 2010 and reported to Florida Championship Wrestling. He would be brought to NXT and was crowned the first ever NXT champion under the name Seth Rollins. He was Tyler Black on the independent circuit before, but the name Seth Rollins actually comes from Henry Rollins of Black Flag. Seth's a big fan. Seth also likes the name Seth. That's where the name comes from. He led the way in NXT, but he would go on to change the game in 2012 when he debuted alongside Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose as The Shield. The architect of The Shield, Seth Rollins, would not just make The Shield with some incredible performances in the ring, but he would break The Shield when he turned his back on his brothers in arms and would join Triple H's authority. Seth Rollins committed what JBL called the heist of the century at WrestleMania 31 when he cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase in the main event of WrestleMania to become the WWE champion. Rollins has become a mainstay on Monday Night Raw, and whether you love him or whether you hate him, Seth Rollins is around for a long time yet. What was the name of that group that Seth Rollins was in when he debuted? Ah, yes, S is for The Shield. Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and the aforementioned Seth Rollins debuted in 2012 and helped CM Punk retain his WWE Championship. Who were The Shield? Well, originally was supposed to be Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, and Cassius Ohno. So the story goes, it was CM Punk that pitched the idea of The Shield, looking to get Chris Hero himself a gig on the WWE television. However, higher-ups preferred the look of a Roman Reigns, so Ohno was out and Roman was in. They were immediately successful in the WWE, with Dean Ambrose holding the US title belt for almost a year, and Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns becoming tag team champions. These mercenaries found themselves at odds against guys like Ryback, John Cena, Kane, Goldust, and Cody Rhodes. In fact, anybody who was anybody at the top of the ladder at WWE, The Shield were coming at them. They found themselves at loggerheads at one point with Triple H, who ended up having to bring back his old buddies Evolution, Randy Orton and Batista, to take the fight to The Shield. The Shield came out on top in the battle, but they would lose the war as Triple H would coax Seth Rollins to the dark side. And one steel chair to the back of Roman Reigns would end the Shield. At least until 2018. The Shield would reunite on a handful of occasions before, once Dean Ambrose decided he was leaving the WWE, would sign off for good in 2018. Since that debut in 2012, every single member of the Shield has been nothing but successful. They are all Grand Slam champions. There was an iconic moment at Money in the Bank when it was Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns for the WWE title. Roman Reigns going in as champion, Seth Rollins defeating him for the belt. Moments later, Dean Ambrose would come out cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase and beating Seth Rollins for the belt. That would mean that all three members of the Shield held the WWE Championship within the same 2-minute space. Think on that. It's a bit cool, isn't it? So that's S on the A to Z of WWE. Next time you and I are together, we're gonna play the game! Bye! Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. You can support us on Patreon by going to patreon.com/Cultaholic. Lastly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.